Welcome to the update. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Jai.
Today we are covering current world events, talking about the definition of what an insurrection is, and of course our favorite part of the show where we all look back on this date in history and so much more. The update is coming up next. Thanks again for being with us here today. Let's start off the show the only way we can, where we find out what's happening in the world with the haps with the maps. Russia has been bombing all areas of Ukraine. It's no holds barred now, as men, women, children, buildings, shopping markets, all of it, they're all targets. And just like Russia's symbolic Kerch Bridge, one of Ukraine's most popular tourist sites, a glass bridge, was attacked but remains standing. Now, leaders around the world have been condemning Putin's moves. Pope Francis of the Vatican is one of those voices and has condemned the war and the increasing attacks on civilians. Canada has agreed to sending $15 million more in winter clothing, another $15.2 million in howitzer ammunition, and an additional $15.3 million of high-tech cameras and communication services. The Netherlands is providing $15 million worth of air defense missiles to Ukraine, and more than 50 country leaders gathered to meet at the NATO headquarters where they promised to send additional weapons to Ukraine. And talk about impressive, a crowdfunding mission to raise funds to purchase kamikaze drones for the Ukrainian armed forces, and within 24 hours, a whopping $9.6 million was raised. All of this increase in additional aid is attributed to the constant bombing of Ukraine by Russia. Another escalating fear is how winter is going to pan out over Europe. Russia's Gazprom has warned that whole towns in Europe could freeze this winter. For Russia, they are a bit frustrated, as Ukraine's military has been successful in taking back regions from Russian troops. 5 settlements in the eastern district of the northeast of the Kherson region were taken back in just one day. And Russian media has estimated the number of irrecoverable losses, or men who have been killed, went missing, died from wounds, or were disabled, in the amount of 90,000 soldiers. Russian forces are being depleted of ammunition and weapons, and due to the sanctions imposed, they are not able to produce the necessary equipment. And despite this, there has been developments with the Nord Stream 2. One link is good to go, according to Putin, to begin delivering gas again. However, the EU is still deciding on whether it should resume. Now, 8 people have been detained over the Kerch Bridge bombing, linking Crimea to Russia, and Russian officials are claiming the attack was coordinated by another top official for Ukraine. Putin is set to meet President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and talk about a possible way to end the war. And we'll make sure to keep you updated on Monday. Headed next to Latin America, in Colombia, who is known for environmental defender dangers, has finally ratified Latin American legislation regarding the environment and those who fight to protect it. The Escazú Agreement was adopted on March 4th back in 2018 in Costa Rica and gave 4 pillars of rights, which are access to information, meaning any citizen has the right to request environmental information without presenting major justification, and to receive it within the next 30 days. Next, access to participation in environmental decision-making, which means any person who could be affected by decisions regarding the environmental projects must be informed and summoned for participating so the public's viewpoint will be taken into consideration. Third, we have access to justice in environmental matters, and this is to appeal any and challenge decisions concerning these first 2 points, access to information and participation. This principle also guarantees states will provide entities with experience on environmental matters. And then finally, they have protection for environmental defenders, which is huge there. This means that states must secure a safe environment for environmental human rights defenders, recognize the rights of the defenders to participate in environmental defense activities, and prevent, investigate, and punish attacks committed on environmental defenders. Now on to the U.S. You've probably been hearing about what some call an insurrection and others simply call a rally that got out of hand that took place on January 6th of 2021. There are all kinds of opinions on this story, so make sure you do as much research as possible so you can come to your own decision. The media is great at using trigger words to invoke specific feelings, so don't be fooled or misguided by opinions that have an agenda. Moving on, the first Native American woman has been in space. NASA astronaut Nicole Mann made history last week by becoming the first Native American woman in space and the first woman to command a Crew Dragon capsule, where Mann is the mission commander. A little more background info: Nicole Mann is enrolled in the Round Valley Indian Tribes in Northern California and is also a colonel in the U.S. Marine Corps, where she served as a test pilot and was deployed twice in operations in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Mann's response to the recognition: she says, "It's important that we communicate this to our community so that other Native kids, if they thought maybe this was not a possibility, or to realize that some of those barriers that used to be there are really starting to get broken down." What an inspiring story of strength, courage, and determination. Next up, when will the inflation increase stop? Well, not anytime soon, unfortunately. September alone saw an increase of 8.2% when compared to the same time last year, and overall from August there was a 0.4% increase. Now, the feds have been trying to combat inflation by increasing rates. However, it hasn't been a huge deterrent yet. Families are still seeing rises in food, housing, and gas prices. Even department stores are starting to offer discounts early this year. The topic of inflation is sure to be of importance come midterm election time in November. Definitely interesting times we are living in for sure, and stay tuned. Up next we will be talking about the Insurrection Act, what it is, what it means, and why it's important. Welcome back to the update on the HYFN TV network. Now, we briefly mentioned the term insurrection, which has been used by the media to perpetuate feelings. So what exactly is an insurrection, and what can the U.S. do if such an occurrence happens? Jai has all those details for you.
Thanks, Tiff. So, technically, an insurrection is defined by good old Merriam-Webster as an active instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. So, if this should happen, the U.S. actually has legislation passed called, fittingly, the Insurrection Act. Now, we checked out the info from Brennan Center for Justice to bring you all the deets. First, this is a law that allows the president to deploy the military domestically and use it for civilian law enforcement. Now keep in mind, this law has not been updated in over 150 years. Is that a good or bad thing? Well, under normal circumstances, the U.S. military is not permitted to take part in civilian law enforcement. Why? Because of the posse comitatus rule. Now that was established due to traditionally viewing military interference in civilian government as being inherently dangerous to liberty. So this act should only be used in a crisis that is truly beyond the capacity of civilian authorities to manage. And it has been added to the United States Code, sections 251 through 255. And what exactly do these sections do? Glad you asked. First, Section 251 allows the president to deploy troops if a state's legislature, or governor if the legislature is unavailable, requests federal aid to suppress an insurrection in that state. That requires state consent. Then there is Section 252, which permits deployment in order to enforce the laws of the United States or to suppress rebellion, where such rebellion makes it impractical to enforce federal law. Next is Section 253. Now this is a two-part matter. The first part permits the president to use the military in a state to suppress any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy that so hinders the execution of the laws, or that any portion of the state's inhabitants are deprived of a constitutional right and state authorities are unable or unwilling to protect that right. Now both sections 252 and 253 allow the president to deploy troops without a request from the affected state, even if the state's wishes. Does that seem reasonable to you? It sounded reasonable when past presidents like Eisenhower and Kennedy relied on the provision to deploy troops to desegregate the schools in the South. Now, the second part to Section 253 allows the president to deploy troops to combat any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy, opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States, or impedes the course of justice under those laws. Now, some alarming contentions are who gets to decide when such deployments are necessary? Well, it is the president, according to the Supreme Court. However, the Supreme Court also clarified that courts may still review the lawfulness of the military's actions once deployed. The military cannot violate any laws or constitutional rights, so checks and balances are in effect here. Now here's a little background info on when the Insurrection Act has been used in the past so you can understand how it is used. Now first, Presidents George Washington and John Adams used it in response to early rebellions against federal authority. We then had President Abraham Lincoln, who invoked it at the start of the Civil War. President Ulysses Grant used it to crush the first incarnation of the Ku Klux Klan in the 1870s. And as we talked about a little earlier, both Eisenhower and Kennedy used it to enforce desegregation. Now, probably most notably in modern times, back in 1992, California requested military aid after the acquittal of the police officers in the death of Rodney King, which was a nationwide story. Now, everyone's trying to figure out what happened in the U.S. on January 6th, 2021. Was it an insurrection? Was it a rally that got out of hand? When do we know if an action calls for the president to enact the Insurrection Act? Well, just as we said, the president has the official call. Now, is that worrisome due to the fact that any party may feel a certain way and try to prove their point by using power? We hope not. After all, we are in America, home of the free. That's what's up, freedom. Back to you, Tiff.
Thank you, Jai. We here on The Update and HYFN TV feel it is so important for you to be able to make your own decisions. Don't go along with the crowd because they are doing it. Be your own person. It's a beautiful thing when you are truly free. Stay tuned. Next up, we've got the amazing This Day in History and all the Arizona news you've been waiting for. Welcome back. Now it's time for laughs and some enlightenment. Great combo before the weekend. Daniel has your report for this day in history.
Thank you, Tiff. This is one of my favorite segments because we get to look back at a ton of cool information, letting us know about some of the biggest events in history. Starting off on October 14th, 1884, George Eastman patented the paper strip photographic film. Now, where the heck would we be without film? Could you imagine? There would definitely not be any movies to report on in our box office review without it. Now, moving on to literature, In 1892, I honestly didn't think it was this long ago, but Arthur Conan Doyle published The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes collection of 12 stories originally published serially in the Strand magazine. Sherlock Holmes, an iconic investigator who has been made into many, many movies, ranging from children's movies to those better suited for adults. Everyone knows who Sherlock Holmes is, and if you don't, then read the books. Now going to another literary icon piece of work, Winnie the Pooh debuted in 1926 with A. Milne's Book of the Beloved Children's Character. Did you know that Winnie the Pooh was created based on a real-life black bear owned by a Canadian soldier serving in World War I? How cool is that? The cavalry veterinarian purchased the cub for $20, only $20, that's crazy, and returned to the train with his new pet, which he named Winnipeg in tribute to his hometown. It all makes sense. Now moving in a whole nother direction, back in 1943, Japan declared the Philippines independent. Imagine that. Moving on, back in the US in 1964, a man you may have heard of once or twice or a million times, and rightfully so, Martin Luther King Jr. was announced as the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. We just talked about the Nobel Prizes, the rigorous selection process, and the winners, or laureates as they are called. It takes a massive amount of effort and humanitarian causes to be selected for this prestigious honor, and Dr. King, of course, met all of them with his determination to bring racial equality to the forefront. Next, we have another Nobel Prize winner. Winner, chicken dinner. In 1986, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to Auschwitz survivor Elie Wiesel for his efforts to ensure that the Holocaust was remembered. He wrote a great book called Night that tells about his experience of surviving Auschwitz. It's a painful story to read, and I'd imagine it was infinitely more painful to write, but it's one that must be told. The Holocaust was a tragic time in our world's history, and any event or person trying to make sure that stuff like that isn't repeated is a hero in our book. Now I wish I could talk about something on the lighter side, but in 1998, the complete opposite of doing good for humanity, Eric Robert Rudolph was charged with the 1996 bombing during the Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. It was one of several bombing incidents Rudolph carried out to protest legalized abortion in the United States. The topic of abortion hasn't and won't go away. Not as long as people have different views, which is what makes America great. We don't have to all agree on everything to get along. Now, to close it off on some light news, in 2012, Felix Baumgartner breaks the world record for highest manned balloon flight, highest parachute jump, and greatest freefall velocity, parachuting from an altitude of approximately 24 miles. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like an amazing time to me, falling 24 miles, right? Now, we brought you tons of historical events today. Hope you enjoyed them. It's important to take a look back here and there with the not so positive events, just as in your personal lives. You do not want them to come back. Instead, you learn, make adjustments. With the awesome events in the past, we can see how far we've come as a society and ensure progress is being made. Now back to you, Tiff.
Thank you, Daniel. Stay tuned. Next up is all the info about the great state of Arizona.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jai.
I'm Tiff.
And I'm Daniel.
Now that we've all got some stamps on the passport, let's bring it back home to our gorgeous backyard, the Grand Canyon State, my home, Arizona. It's time for your Arizona State News, reported objectively, down the middle, with no agendas. Welcome back to your breath of fresh air. This is the update.
Now remember, you can catch this episode streaming on the HYFN TV channel on your Roku, or get us on your phones at HYFNTV.com. You can also stream your favorite segments whenever you want on demand on Roku and HYFNTV.com. Let's start it off with an update on the Arizona gubernatorial elections. Daniel?
Thank you, Tiff. And good day, everyone. The plot thickens in Arizona in the gubernatorial elections. The debate that was scheduled to take place on October 12th did not happen due to Democratic candidate for governor Katie Hobbs declining the debate, commenting to AZ Central, and I quote, "What I'm focused on is talking to the voters of Arizona." She said, "I'm not interested in being a part of Kari Lake's spectacle or shouting match, and I'm going to keep taking my case directly to the voters." Now, we make it our job here on the update to keep you up to date on all things elections. That's why we are your 2022 election news leaders. We give it to you straight, just facts, non-biased, enabling you to choose the candidate that most aligns with your ethics and values. That in mind, we thought we'd help everyone who doesn't know understand the process, the debate process for the governor race in Arizona. Who puts on the debates? And what happens if a candidate declines, like what just happened here in Arizona with Katie Hobbs? Let's go to Jai for the details.
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you all for the opportunity to bring unbiased information to you. For a long time, it's felt like almost all the news outlets have an agenda they're trying to push. Not us. I wouldn't be a part of this network if it wasn't unbiased. Because when I'm gathering information, I want the freedom to decide what I believe for myself. That shouldn't be up to someone else, right? Okay, so it seems like at the center of understanding this debate debacle here in Arizona is the Clean Elections Committee. Why? Well, according to azcleanelections.gov, the Citizens Clean Elections Commission is a nonpartisan commission created by voters in 1998 titled the Citizens Clean Citizen Elections Act. Now, it codified that the commission educates viewers, provides campaign funding, and enforces campaign finances and laws. Now, the goal of this act was to root out corruption and promote confidence in our political process. Now, let's kick it over to Tiff to explain their impact on debates.
Thank you, Jai. Okay, so candidates for the office of governor and other elected offices have the option to either participate or decline funding from the Clean Elections Committee. Now, if a candidate participates, the committee places limitations on the amounts of contributions that can be made to these participating candidate campaigns. Here are these contribution limits according to azcleanelections.gov. Now, as you can see, the types of entities that can contribute include individuals, partnerships, candidate committees, non-mega PACs, mega PACs, and political parties with non-union funds. Participating candidates are prohibited from receiving funds from corporations, limited liability companies, trusts, and unions. Now that we've discussed whose contributions can and can't be accepted by those candidates accepting clean elections funding, when we come back, we'll kick it over to Daniel, who will tie it all together by helping us understand the impact of Katie Hobbs declining to publicly debate Kari Lake.
Welcome back, guys. So, with everything said, neither Carrie Lake nor Katie Hobbs are participating to receive clean elections funding. Therefore, neither of them is actually required to participate in the televised debates. PBS, or Public Broadcasting Service, which is funded by Arizona tax dollars, has televised all of the presidential debates since 1960 and televises most debates for elected offices in the nation. PBS operates out of Arizona State University as a public service. Their mission, according to PBS.org, is a membership organization that is in partnership with its member stations, serves the American public with programming and services of the highest quality, using media to educate, inspire, entertain, and express a diversity of perspectives. PBS empowers individuals to achieve their potential and strengthen the social, democratic, and cultural health of the U.S. And they partner up with the Citizens Clean Election Committee to host a series of debates. Here's how that plays out. Carrie Lake accepted the invitation to debate. Hobbs did not. PBS scheduled Carrie Lake for a 30-minute sit-down, as is customary when only one candidate agrees to the debates. In an unexpected turn of events, however, they also offered the same to Hobbs after the Clean Elections Commission denied Hobbs' request for separate interviews in lieu of the debates. Once the Clean Elections Committee learned about PBS offering Hobbs the interview, even though she declined the debates, they withdrew from the event. According to a tweet by the commission, they had a long-standing, agreed-upon shared practice of not offering a candidate that 30-minute interview if they declined the debate. In the tweet, the CEC wrote, "Given today's events and the need to obtain additional information regarding the last-minute developments, the commission will postpone tonight's Q&A on Arizona PBS and will identify a new venue, partner, and date when the interview will be broadcast." Now, Carrie Lake's interview has been canceled, and she publicly did speak out against the move by the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and PBS. And I guess we'll see if and when Arizona voters get to hear these candidates share their views. Otherwise, we may have a little more research on our plates come November 8th. Back to you, Tiff.
Thank you, Daniel. That was really educational, and I agree. It's getting really interesting as we near November elections. And on that note, students, parents, everybody, remember to go out and register to vote. If you are 18 or older, you have the right, better yet, the privilege of voting. And yes, your vote does count. Whoever is voted for will have an impact on and direct legislation. You can count on us here on the update for all of your election news, as we are your 2022 election coverage news leaders, giving you just the facts. After the break, we'll catch up with you on the most recent developments in Arizona pertaining to one of the hottest button topics in current elections and beyond, abortion law. See you in a few. for tuning into the update. Welcome back. I'm Tiff. And now that we've caught up on the race for governor here in Arizona, let's take a look at the latest updates with abortion laws here in the state. Now, the Phoenix City Council voted on October 11th, 6 votes to 2 in favor of officially opposing the United States Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, and for Phoenix police to assign the lowest possible priority to all calls pertaining to abortion law violations. You might remember in a recent decision in a landmark case, Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health Organization, the Supreme Court decided to grant abortion rights to the states, meanwhile stating that the Constitution does not explicitly grant anyone abortion rights. Now, whether we agree or disagree is not for us here to say. We simply desire to share the facts so you can decide for yourself. Now, the October 11th vote also made sure to speak against the original Arizona abortion law created in 1864 that was reinstated back into law back in September. Now, technically speaking, in Arizona, abortions are legal after 15 weeks of pregnancy. But along with these votes to deprioritize these laws, the original law being put on pause, and several other cities following suit, such as Tucson passing a similar response, the Supreme Court's ruling may not trickle down. Kate Gallego had this comment: "The people of Phoenix share a core value, the right to make their own personal decisions. Today, the Phoenix City Council and I honored that by passing a resolution declaring opposition to the Supreme Court decision in Dobbs v. Jackson, criminalizing abortion. With this resolution, the investigation of medical personnel providing abortion services is deprioritized. I will not criminalize people for doing their jobs. Instead, I ask Phoenix PD to focus on greater areas of need, such as gun violence. The city's legal team agrees that Phoenix is well within its bounds and has a right to take action. I stand with my fellow council members who support the constitutional rights of pregnant residents, including access to reproductive health care," in a 3-part Twitter thread. You're watching The Update, where we bring you all the updates regarding state laws and what we Arizonans can expect in our backyard. Now we'll be right back after a short commercial break with a feel-good story about the boys in blue.
Welcome back. Thanks for checking out the update. You can check out all our segments and episodes on demand by adding the HYFN TV channel on Roku or find us on your phone at hyfntv.com. Now, we've all seen and heard stories in the news about police brutality or discrimination, right? But what about something heartwarming? It was September 28th, a sunny day in Phoenix at Emerson School in Central Phoenix, when police showed up in a new ice cream truck called Cool Treats 1. And police, along with the folks from Courtesy Chevrolet, handed out free popsicles and stickers to all the kids. According to the story on Channel 12 News, Emerson principal Nicholas Lodato said, "I've been asking them what their interactions with police officers have been. All of them can tell you a different story. I think to have a positive interaction like this with the officers at a moment like this to build partnerships, to build community is really important. It's definitely not what we're used to seeing in the news every day, right? Hopefully the kids got to see the police in a positive light. Shout out to all the folks being good role models for the kids. Now let's go to Jai, who has a story that might help us be more careful around the holidays. Jai?
Wow, that was an excellent story indeed. Thank you, Daniel. Now, we've been staying up on the battle against fentanyl, the ghost drug that's responsible for so many recent overdoses, especially in the younger generations. Now, it seems as though the newest way the dealers are trying to distribute it is in tamales. On October 13th, Arizona Border Patrol agents seized 2,100 fentanyl pills hidden in tamales. Apparently, a bag of them inside each tamale. Now, according to Fox, many of the pills are sporting a new rainbow color to attract younger buyers for their bright, colorful appearance. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death for those between 15 and 44 years old, and being so close to the border, Arizonans are that much closer to the risk. Let's all please be diligent in being aware of our surroundings and notifying authorities if we see suspicious activity, especially around children. Reporting live for HYFN TV. Back to you, Tiff.
Thank you, Jai, for that info. And now, since we're coming up on the November 8th elections, quite quickly, let's look at one more new piece of legislation that will be decided at the polls. Prop 130 is a proposition to restore property tax exemptions for military veterans. The previous law only gave this exemption to Arizona residents who entered the military after already resigning in Arizona. Well, the new proposition also hopes to include military widows, widowers, and those with disabilities. An uplifting, hopeful story. Very nice. Hopefully that goes through. Back to you, Jai.
Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Daniel. And thank you to all of you for watching the update. Keep it here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays as we keep you up to date on all the news in Arizona and around the world. For all things elections and what matters to Arizonans, down the middle, no agenda, just the facts. That's all for now. From HYFN TV Studios in Sun City, Arizona, I'm Jai.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Tiff. Bye for now.